You know, it's funny hearing people mention Animal Crossing when listing off video games they want as movie adaptations. Like, didn't you know? In 2006, the world was graced with Animal Crossing the movie, and by the world, I mean Japan. Directed by Joji Shimura, who has also done work on franchises such as Tamagotchi and Pokemon, the film was produced shortly after the success of Animal Crossing Wild World. That game would also be the basis of where the movie would derive most of its elements from, especially in the music department. Unfortunately, the film has never been localized in any official capacity, but that's where the fans come in. I watched a subtitled version done by Raid2814, aka my GOAT. There are plenty of subbed and dubbed versions, but this is the one I just so happened to stumble upon. And after giving it a watch, I can safely say that this is one of my favorite video game adaptations ever. It's a real shame that it wasn't released in the West so that more people can see it, but that's what I'm here for, to tell you about why I love this charming little movie. So, let's get into discussing the second best video game movie of all time. It would be the first if it had a laser room dance number. The film opens the same way Wild World does, with Cap'n driving our human protagonist to their new village. This is Ai, and we'll be following her for the majority of the movie. This opening section is really interesting to me because I didn't even grow up with Wild World or City Folk, yet still feel emotional when the music hits. I guess that's just the power of a good franchise doing its thing. So, Ai gets to town and meets the familiar faces we know from the games, starting with Mayor Tortimer, who's really worried about losing the next election, even when he's running unopposed. It's a cute reoccurring bit that the movie has. But then we have Tom Nook, who just immediately puts Ai to work as soon as she gets there. Look, this isn't like the games where we have no money and he just lets us work at his shop as a compromise. The girl was just looking for her damn house key. Oh well. At least this is where she gets to meet some of her neighbors, like Rosie, Whitney, Alfonso, and Margie. There's even another human villager from another town named You. Like, I and you. I and you, that's pretty clever. The plot of the movie isn't anything too out of the ordinary for Animal Crossing. You just follow Ai in her day-to-day life among the animals and see how their friendships develop over time. Just a simple slice of life with no high stakes, just like the games. We even get to see the seasons change over time as the movie progresses. But what the movie does a really good job at is setting up certain characters and having payoffs for them later on in the film. For example, Ai accidentally messes up a bed of blue roses that belong to Apollo. As any Animal Crossing connoisseur would know, these are some of the rarest flowers in the entire game, and given Apollo's cold, reserved nature, she assumes that he's not taking it too well. Every time we see him, you still feel the weight of the mistake she made, until the end where he admits that he was never really angry at all, and apologizes for being so standoffish. Apologizes. I'll see myself out. The only thing I wish the movie had was a line where Blathers acknowledges the Seismosaurus. See, he almost has a complete fossil collection, but is missing the one dinosaur. But the gang stumbles upon the exact one he's missing. I'm sure he found out about it by the end of the film, but it would have been wholesome to see his reaction to their discovery. Speaking of which, I remember watching the scene where they look for fossils and thinking, why hasn't this been implemented in any of the games? Like, for real, imagine an Animal Crossing game where you can explore caverns and look for all kinds of loot. New Horizons already has some more exploration-based content with the mystery tours, so why not put this in the next game? Nintendo, you should hire me, and I will be the best ideas guy there ever was. Also, can we take a moment to appreciate how beautiful the art style is? The backgrounds are vivid and the colors are inviting, which complements the tone of the movie extremely well. I really dig the watercolor aesthetic they were going for in this one. It matches Animal Crossing insanely well, and I wouldn't mind a new game with these artistic qualities. The attention to detail is just incredible in this movie. Even the little details like Margie's favorite song being KK Bossa, or this one shot of Rosie's house being accurate to the games, you can tell they deeply cared about the source material. If you need any further proof, look no further than the soundtrack. All completely rearranged music from Wild World, and it's divine, bro. The whole thing is one massive emotional experience for Animal Crossing fans. Do yourself a favor and give it a listen. There isn't a whole ton of conflict that happens in the story, but that's honestly how I'd prefer it for an Animal Crossing movie. However, in the middle of the movie, Ai's best friend Margie moves out without telling her. This is a pretty common occurrence for the games, but here the movie contextualizes Margie's decision by her wanting to become a fashion designer. It's brought up almost every time she appears, and she can't fulfill that dream of hers if she stays in town. Ai is devastated that Margie didn't tell her she was moving out, and it perfectly replicates how I, as in me I, felt when Biscuit moved out of my new Leaf back in 2014. Worst day of my life, I tell ya. I was in the car with my grandparents and they were really confused on why I was so upset at my Nintendo 3DS. Ai does receive a letter from Margie apologizing for not telling her, and not only gets a cute drawing, but also receives her photo. In the game, receiving a villager's photo was a symbol of how close of a friendship you two had, so seeing it here was pretty impactful. I like how they not only tackled the heartbreak you feel when your favorite villager moves out, but also how they use it to reinforce the main message of the movie. It's about finding yourself and not letting your talents go to waste. For Ai, she finds herself within the community, and I believe stargazing as well based on the post-credits scene. There's a whole metaphor in this movie about how using your talents is as rewarding as eating cherry pie. But not using your talents is essentially a waste, just like a cherry pie going stale. Trust me, the metaphor makes more sense in the movie. Now that's cute and all, but at the end of the day, it just puts me in the mood for cherry pie. In fact, there's a lot of talk about cherry pie in this movie. Like, I don't know, like cherry pie is brought up like every other scene. Like, it's kind of funny. But you want to know what happens towards the end of the film? Aliens.
Aliens?
Literally, there's a whole deal where Gulliver's UFO breaks down and the villagers have to find 5 pieces to the ship. So the gang heads back to the cave and finds a missing gear. But as it turns out, this gear is a baby alien who is injured, and then the mothership arrives and then takes Ai to some otherworldly realm, and then the alien heals itself, and then this happens, and then the aliens leave after making a constellation in the shape of Ai, and then Tortimer's all like,
"Guess what? You won the prize! Oh my god!"
I've heard a lot of people say that the alien portion is weird, and it absolutely is. But aliens aren't that much of a far-fetched concept for the franchise. And it's not like the movie does nothing to foreshadow them. There are these mystery notes Ai comes across from the beach that acknowledges the presence of some sort of external force. But yeah, I can see why people think this was bizarre. Clearly you've never played New Leaf at 3:33 AM on a Sunday if you're confused about aliens. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the Animal Crossing movie. If it wasn't obvious enough, I really do love this movie. It perfectly translated the games into a movie setting and gave an extra bit of depth to some of these characters. It makes for a really cozy and relaxing watch. I was really sad when it ended because I just wanted more. Imagine a mini-series with this exact setting. I'm surprised with just how well they translated the game considering half of the enjoyment is based on player input. But things like the characters and visual style make this a quality film. I didn't talk about every little detail in this movie, but that's because I think you should just watch it on your own. It's 100% worth your time. Animal Crossing the movie is like cherry pie. Really sweet, easy to process, and is a good time overall. But am I really gonna act like this is one of the best video game adaptations out there? Yes, because it made me happy. Good night, everyone.